Hi, my name is Dani. I'm a 37-year-old woman born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina. 4.5 years ago, I left the city and moved to a small rural town here in Patagonia. I am now surrounded by mountains, forests, rivers, lakes, and good neighbors. In today's video, I'd like to share how I experienced loneliness in the city compared to the small rural town that I now call home. Some people might believe living in a city make you feel less alone. But from my experience, I realized you can be surrounded by a crowd and still feel invisible. For me, being surrounded by people has never guaranteed I would feel less lonely. I've spent a lot of time surrounded by people at work, at the gym, and with friends I regularly spend time with. And there have been many times when I was out with people I knew, and yet by the time I got home and went to bed, I felt a deep sense of emptiness. Maybe the reason was that I lacked genuine connection and closeness. As I changed, my life changed too, and I gradually lost many of my social connections. The underlying problem wasn't just that I no longer had a community, a group, or even one person I could belong with, connect with, and feel close to. It was also the daily weight of loneliness in the streets, feeling invisible in a rushed crowd that seemed to know where to go, what to do, and who to be with. So, in the years leading up to 2022, the year I moved away, the city started to feel like a prison to me, and my body began to show it through anxiety attacks. When I was living in the city, I often forced myself to go for walks, even though I had always loved them. But many times I ended up rushing back home because I feared having an anxiety attack or a nervous breakdown in public. I felt so overwhelmed, like there was no escape. I would often notice the city trees. I felt a deep sense of sympathy for them. Their strength, their ability to survive in such harsh conditions, their roots crushed and trapped beneath the hard concrete, honestly amazed me. And yet, they kept trying to grow, to thrive. I felt a lot like those trees, confined but quietly and slowly pushing against the concrete, trying to crack through it so my own roots could finally have the space to grow and set me free. Maybe that's why the city felt so lonely to me, not just because of the people, but because I felt disconnected from something much bigger: nature, other living beings, and even myself. I've never really been able to think of cities as just another kind of landscape. For me, they carry a story of everything that had to disappear in order for them to exist. This means that every street, every building, every shopping mall or parking lot exists because something else was replaced. An ecosystem had to vanish. And I think a lot of us never stopped to wonder what came before a city took its place. And that's part of why I started dreaming about life somewhere else. During that transition out of the city, I remember feeling so defeated by loneliness that I thought to myself, I would rather feel lonely in a small town surrounded by nature and quiet than in a big city surrounded by concrete and noise. It seemed the more crowded the place, the lonelier I felt. But the truth is, I never expected that Moving to Patagonia or anywhere else would cure my loneliness. I knew wherever I went, my shadow would follow. After 4.5 years of living in a small town, I discovered a different kind of loneliness. Nature and animals became a different kind of companion than crowds, and sometimes a better one, if I have to be honest. Although I know they can never replace human connection. Do you want to know a secret? I love talking to animals. Every now and then, for example, I ask my cat if he wants to exchange bodies with me for a day so we can experience what it's like to be each other. But so far, I haven't gotten any answers. Living in a less crowded place, surrounded by more nature, gave me the opportunity to feel completely exposed to myself instead of feeling invisible in a crowd. In the city, I felt trapped, but in nature, there were no distractions or noise, so I had no other choice but to put a mirror in front of myself and face my own loneliness. It also gave me the opportunity to discern between loneliness and solitude. Solitude is having the choice to spend time with yourself and enjoy it, whereas loneliness is the lack of that choice and it feels very painful. I enjoy walking to the river, cooking a meal, taking photographs of nature and the landscape, weaving, dancing, singing, writing, or just sitting here while I narrate this video. These moments don't make me feel lonely because I'm choosing them. So, solitude is something I seek, and loneliness is something I never asked for. And realizing that difference helped me understand what I've really been craving all along. First and most important, one person who feels like a kindred spirit. Second, a group of people to share meaningful activities with. And third, a community where we share the responsibility of caring for and protecting the things around us. But understanding that I need to be part of a group or community doesn't mean it's easy to find one or sustain it over time. And even being part of one doesn't necessarily mean feeling less lonely. For example, 2 summers ago, there were huge wildfires here, and many people had to evacuate their homes. So, a group of volunteers organized a temporary shelter for dogs and cats that had nowhere to go. People could come during the day to keep them company and care for them until they could be reunited with their humans. When I arrived by myself, I realized everyone was there with someone, a friend, a partner, or a family member. I remember thinking how lovely it would have been to share that experience with someone close, or even to have formed a connection there. So, being surrounded by kind people who came together to help still left me feeling outside the invisible web of relationships they already had. And I know that kind of connection I long for doesn't appear magically. It requires me to keep showing up and allowing myself to be seen. But I'm still learning how to do that because opening up in groups doesn't come naturally to me. And often I know that's the gateway to meeting that one person who might become a kindred spirit. So, what I've learned so far is that moving from one place to another changed the way loneliness felt, but it didn't make it disappear. The city made me feel invisible in a crowd. Rural Patagonia made me feel exposed to myself. And maybe that's why I've never been looking for a crowd. Just a few people with whom we can truly feel seen and heard. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you feel connected to my stories, feel free to subscribe.